Yesterday on Tuesday, the Prime Minister of Australia came out and publicly accused Iran of staging anti-Semitic attacks in Australia. Now we know a little bit more about it, specifically how incompetent Iran is when it comes to doing anything, period. But of course, that doesn't mean just because they are incompetent doesn't mean that we shouldn't care about it. So we'll go through some of what uh, basically the more we know. Then separately as a second thing, we'll talk about workers' intifada or wokers' intifada or whatever you want to call it. And it's the fact that specifically a bunch of people in Microsoft have basically invaded the offices of the CEO of Microsoft. So, yeah, the intifada is spreading and it's alarming, and we have to talk about it. And then, thirdly, we'll go into Israel, and we have three specific things we might cover if we have time. And these are, of course, the protests happening right now. The fact that Netanyahu apparently just sort of recognized the Armenian genocide, which Israel hadn't technically done for well, ever. And also that and this was on the same show, and on the same show with Patrick Bet David, he also said that if Trump was in office, October 7 wouldn't have happened. So I have a few things to say about that as well if we have time. Welcome to the reality show. Joining me today are Iyar Reichel and Jonathan Daon. And I'll jump to you, Iyar, first, since you weren't on yesterday. So yeah, these attacks that have happened in Iran specifically, oh, sorry, in Australia specifically, we are talking about two of them that have been orchestrated by Iran, specifically by somebody, an Iranian living in Australia since I think like 2005, 6, something like that. And basically he was paid. I was really surprised. He was paid $12,000 to basically do this. We'll go into a bit more specifics, but first, any comments from you, ER?
Well, this is another indication and evidence, and I can even say a proof for Iran's role in spreading terror around the world. This is very relevant for all the Tucker Carlsons and other people that, in order to smear Israel, are basically whitewashing the Ayatollah regime. This is also an indication of the impotence of evil. If you read the stories and go into the details, you see how it's almost like comical how they actually perform and act on the surface. And, you know, just another case of evil acts in a very incompetent way. I'm glad they got caught. I'm glad Israel has a part in it, cooperating with the Australian intelligence. And hopefully this regime will die soon. This is also relevant to mention that Iran is currently failing to deal with a drought. Perhaps if they would have, invest their money in infrastructure instead of a plan to destroy a state they have nothing to do with, perhaps they wouldn't have been dying in thirst right now. And I assume there will be another another war between Israel and Iran. Either they will attack us or we will attack them due to Iran's desperate situation as of now.
Yeah, and so the person who is behind these attacks, although allegedly, this is all just alleged at this point, is Sayed Musavi, who apparently directed this attack and using the messaging app Signal, where he worked under the alias James Bond. So this is, this is like the James Bond from Wish, as the Zoomers would say. Just to give something about basically what is done. So he basically tried to hire a few people to help him. They had the wrong address 2 times in a row. So they this is the kind of incompetency, right? They couldn't and again, it's not like synagogues are that hard to recognize and tell apart from the rest of the buildings, yet they failed at twice until they did so. And even the sort of the buildings they tried to set on fire, the fire was basically taken out by sprinklers because that's what you usually have. So again, no planning, no sort of, as ER said, the incompetence, the sort of inability to actually do anything is laughable to a large extent, especially if you compare it to, again, Israeli operations. People who haven't looked into the beeper attack in on Hezbollah should look into, because the amount of like preparation that took is incredible. We have super chats from Bonnie, thank you so much. A super chat from Bronx Guy Gun Hill Road, thank you so much. And a super chat from Unusual AI, thank you so much. He says, great job, you all, much thanks. Can't watch the stream because working, see you. Well, thankfully we have recording, so you can watch it later, as well as watch it on podcast, since we do upload this on podcast. But I mean, Jonathan, this guy, this James Bond guy, I mean, it really is like a joke. Like yesterday we talked about it, and we talked more about the fact that this has happened. Iran is doing this, but now that we actually know what it even was, it is pretty, like just to give people a reminder of the specific the synagogue story. I believe even when it was set on fire, the people just left the building from the other side because they could have just left the other side. Only like I think like the main entrance was sort of set on fire, and they were able to simply get away.
Yeah, it reminds me also of the various stories from within Israel of during the war, how Iran and before would pay or would offer some Israelis, and there were some actual people who would take ridiculously small amounts of money also to do some really strange activities that they would pay for via crypto or whatever. And it all amounted to nothing, which I think really takes us back to the deeper point that Rand brought so eloquently, which is the idea of the impotence of evil. Evil has nothing to provide. It can only exist insofar as the good allows it to flourish. It only exists on the power of a negative. It can't actually do anything itself. Even acts of destruction, even like, let's say, the development of nuclear weapons. How is it possible that the Iranians, for how many, 20, 30 years, have failed to do this mission they declared again and again? I don't know how many years it took the Israelis to develop nuclear weapons in the 50s, but I think it was a matter of a few years. How is it possible? They are just utterly incompetent. And it's good that you brought them the point of the drought. They can't feed their people, they can't give water to their people, they can't destroy the country they devote themselves to destroying. What are they good at? Perhaps making rice. So why don't they just stick to that, and perhaps their future will be much, much better.
Yeah, and just to cover this story a bit more, because as you said, the evil might be incompetent, but sort of it still has to be fought. The fact is that even this investigation itself, from what I read, it took 220 law enforcement officers and 50,000 hours of investigation to basically connect these bunch of groups that have committed these attacks to Iran. But now that all of that has been done, okay, what's going to happen now? The fact is, something we've commented on yesterday is the ambassadors to Australia from Iran have been ejected, which, of course, a good thing. We shouldn't have any relations with the state of Iran, or at least with the current state of Iran. But what then? Will this at some point, will we forget about it and they will be invited back? Similar thing that happened to UNRWA, right? We found out, oh, UNRWA has been actually helping terrorists on October 7th. So, okay, we stop funding. And then a few months later, a year later, we kind of forget about it and resume the funding, or at least many nations, many European nations did. So, The main point, or sort of the funny point, is how incompetent Iran is. But then it's also okay. Iran is actively trying to spread terrorism, trying to commit terrorism in other nations. I mean, Jonathan mentioned Israel, and I see here and there. I do see in stories. I'm not sure if we ever covered it. The fact that people in Israel have been arrested for basically taking money from Iran and possibly trying to do something for them.
Well, according to what I've read, Australia is in fact cutting diplomatic ties with Iran. And I'd like to commend them for that. That's a very good thing to do. I call to the entire Western world and free world to cut any diplomatic relations with the Ayatollah regime. I also commend the European Union for starting the snapback sanctions against Iran. This is a process that will take about a month. And once again, I hold the conviction that war, as we've seen in June, will break in like up to 30 days from now, I assume. Hopefully, Israel will start with a preemptive attack, but who knows? And yes, it's a time to end with this regime, and I'm glad they're doing justice with themselves, but not managing water. Like being so incompetent, they cannot even handle the water crisis, which, by the way, there is the science and technology to handle with that, just a corrupt authoritarian regime. So obviously they would fail in that.
Just quickly, because somebody in the chat, I'm not sure if this is straight up anti-Semitic or something, but they've said that Israel has stolen the nuclear research secrets from the US, which I believe is not true. It was done with sort of half open, half secret cooperation with France mainly, who did also have nuclear weapons, and have helped Israel with constructing some of the plants, some of the nuclear plants. So again, there is sometimes this like quick attack on like everything that Israel ever did is they stole it from America or they did something else. Oftentimes, no, they actually developed their own thing, because this is what free nations oftentimes do. Is they are able to make their own research, they are able to develop their own technology. Jonathan, any comments on either that or Iran?
Well, I would say, first of all, it's one of the last good things to come out of the French state was that thing back in the 50s. So no, it wasn't through stealing it from the US. But even if the Jewish state survival depends on us having to steal the formula of nuclear weapons from whoever, then that would be very, I think, justifiable. There's another thing, ER, which I find very interesting. You giving praise for the EU and for Labour Australia, which I think is an interesting time. So worth is saying to the viewers, look how objective we are here. When it's due to give praise, we do that. Also yesterday I gave praise to Australia, so it's all very positive, and we are all very supportive apparently of this action, at least, which is indeed positive.
I think the fact that you mentioned that is an indication for how tribal the setting we are at.
Right. Well, people would expect to say absolutely nothing good. I agree. That's a good point. Yeah. No. Yeah. And it's good to, I think do that. So very good for us. For that. There was another thing, but I forgot. So we can move on.
I would like to say that, just to point out, and I recommend everyone to read about the relationship between Israel and France in the 50s, because it's very interesting. I think there is also a lot of YouTube videos about it. And I think one of the most interesting thing is the 1956 Sinai campaign. So basically, in the late 50s, Egypt has nationalized the Suez Canal. It was a project made by Western companies and countries. It was owned by people in Britain and France. They were the ones who invested in it, built it, took care of it. And then one day, under the philosophical premise of, the collective owns it, and Egypt manages the collective over there. So they said, okay, it belongs to the collective. So they have nationalized it. And the 1956 Sinai campaign of Israel was basically a joint diplomatic and military action of Israel, France, and Britain. And when Israel occupied the Sinai Peninsula in 56, the United States of America State Department, holding the premise that what Egypt did was basically justified due to those collectivist ideas of ownership rather than individual ideas of the owner is the one who created it and took care of it and brought the thing to the war. And the US said, no, the owner is the collective, is the Egyptian people, because it's in their geographical territory.
Yeah.
And then, due to what happened in the Suez, and basically the United States kind of, I don't know how to say it, like taking its boot and crushing Israel and France in this case, led to a very interesting time and diplomatic cooperation between Israel and France that brought up a lot of interesting projects. Unfortunately, this cooperation did not last long, and decade or two after the Suez Canal, France and Israel became not in such great friendship. And today we even see Macron, the current president of France, leading the anti-Israeli campaign, leaning towards his Muslim population, trying to please them by going against Israel and trying to create a Palestinian state after the October 7th horrible attack and massacre, trying to reward the Palestinian movement with a state. And that's just very shameful.
And it was the final nail in the coffin of the British and the French empires. From that point, it became the world domination was split between the Soviets and the Americans. It was also sort of a proxy ploy between the Soviets and Americans to take over the rule from the French and the British.
We have a super chat from Jeff. Thank you so much. And yeah, I mean, what you brought up, ER, between France and Israel, I've seen it just in the news today that apparently Macron is saying that something like Netanyahu shouldn't use what is the exact quote? Like anti-Semitism should not be weaponized, or something like that, saying that Netanyahu should end the murderous and illegal war in Gaza. So again, Macron is the one that is exactly fueling this anti-Semitism by calling a war that is just, by calling a war that is in defense of the all of Israelis, not just the Jewish people, but sort of you could say mainly Jewish people, since that's the majority in Israel. He is fueling this exact thing. I mean, again, the war in Gaza, the campaign in Gaza, has this unique coverage in the world that everybody is focusing on. What do you expect? And sort of to tie it back with Australia, because yeah, while it is important to see the Iranian involvement and then have the response for the Iranian involvement, the fact is that since October 7th until I think this was September 2024, there were more than 2,000 incidents in Australia itself, according to the Executive Council of Australian Jury. So this is not just fueled by Iran. There is something going on in Australia, and for that part in most of the Western nations and most nations around the world. There is something going on that is fueling this hatred of the Jews, this anti-Semitism, and specifically even crimes that are fueled by anti-Semitism. So for Macron to try to go and say, no, this is, it's, and again, what is the implication? Oh, it's the Jews' fault that there is anti-Semitism because they are fighting this war. I mean, yeah, sort of like two questions, I guess. Yeah, I mean, the fact is that there is anti-Semitism in Australia, and it's not just fueled by Iran. The fact is, somebody like Albanese is deciding to recognize the Palestinian state, despite on what happened on October 7th, or I should say, because of what happened on October 7th. Yeah.
I'd like to hear what Jonathan has to say about that.
Jonathan?
Yeah, Australia, and I talked about it yesterday on the show. It's very upsetting, particularly for me personally, what's going on in Australia, because it's such a wonderful place, such a beautiful place, and the Jewish community of Australia has enjoyed one of the safest, arguably one of the safest diaspora Jewish life in the world. There was never anti-Semitism, anything close to that. And what we're seeing is the rise of Islam, the rise of radical Islamism taking over European and international capitals. And the West's moral relativism is incompetent with saying anything against that. They don't even recognize their own cultural superiority. So what can you do? I mean, it's just part of their culture. They're anti-Semitic. Their religion demands it from them. So how can you say anything against that? It's just what are you saying? Islam is better is worse than Christianity? How can you say that? That's racist. So that's the kind of perspective that has been embraced by the West. And we're seeing the catastrophic consequences. And indeed, the problem in France, for example, the French people will pay for that severely, not just by the Jewish abandoning the Jewish community, abandoning their country, which they are a great citizens of and a great source of social abundance and active members of society, but they will, and in Australia, and eventually they will abandon it, hopefully move to a safer life in Israel, and they will be left with these Islamists on their streets. And perhaps, particularly in Europe, there is some poetic justice in the Europeans who have rejected their Jews for basically as long as they have a history. Christian Europeans, they've always had issues with the Jews. It's nothing unique. It's nothing unusual. It's nothing new. And perhaps because you don't want the Jews, you get the Islamists on your door, and then you're gonna miss the Jews.
Somebody in the chat says all the Jews going to Israel seems like a huge trap. Again, almost every single nation is based around ethnicity, but somehow it's only when the Jews do it that it's a problem. Now, again, I have a problem with nations based around an ethnicity, but the fact is Israel is not specifically the one that is doing that. In the Middle East, it's the only nation that is actually not an ethno-state. Unlike every single other state in Middle East, or almost every single
Yeah,
other state.
I even wrote on Twitter today that I propose that Israel comes up with a special visa program for westernized Europeans and Americans and Australians who see what is going on to their countries. They should have the option of applying for a visa to come live in Israel as the only country that stands up for Islamism and Palestinianism, which is what we're really seeing taking over their streets. So
Yeah,
yes,
I have something to say about that. There are two kinds of ethnic states. There is this one kind of like an ethnic tyranny, and you can see it in a lot of Middle Eastern states, Muslim states, in which there is some sort of the ruling race, and they basically persecute all the other minorities. And this is an ethno-state in the bad sense of the term. And there is another type of a state that is devoted for some sort of ethnic group, which is basically a shelter state. Now, the most prominent example of a shelter state in human history is the state of Israel, because Jews are the most persecuted group in history. For the longest time, when you look at percentage, when you look at cases, when you look at cultural dominance, the Jews are the most hated and persecuted group of people in the world. Now, it's like, I'm a part of this club. I didn't choose to be born Jewish. I'm cool with that. I'm Jewish. There is nothing I can do about it. I'm a part of this club. And there is a bunch of Jew haters, millions or even billions of people that are convinced that I am a demon and they want basically to kill me and destroy me and most of the people I know. And I need a place that will accept me, and I know that I will be safe there. And basically, one of the only places in the world for me as a Jewish persecuted man is Israel. So, in this sense, yes, Israel is a state devoted for a certain ethnicity, but the context and reasoning for that and the nature of this state is a complete justification for that. It's not as if Israel is a state for Jews to persecute other people like in other ethno states. People of all kinds of ethnicities and religion have basically equal rights under the law. And they even get like extra benefits from the state, which I think it's wrong. It's discriminatory, but that's a different story. But the criticism of Israel as an ethno state and the attempt to imply that this is an ethno state that is going against minorities is completely delusional and detached from reality. So this is just another smear against Israel.
Yeah, if Israel is an ethno state, if there is a Jewish ethno state, how could the anti-Semites take the Jews and send them to the death camps? I mean, that is very frustrating.
Yeah, for now they can't. Let's see what will happen after the world would listen to those that protest in Harvard and in the BBC. And let's see what happens after they'll manage to destroy the state of Israel. Let's see the world peace. Oh, by the way, I have a point on that.
Yeah, just quickly before you jump in, just so people are clear. When people usually talk about ethno-state, the sort of general meaning is sort of like a one culture or one ethnicity that is actively dominating, and basically everybody else is second-class citizens. So by that logic, Israel is absolutely not an ethno-state. Whoever you are protected under the law in the exact same way. Now, I think when it comes to certain things, Israel does have sort of like, I think especially when it comes to immigration, at least my understanding is if you want to immigrate, it is sort of like reserved for the Jewish people, which I think is unfortunate while
Hey, hold on,
understanding.
it's not an ethnic limitation, which means you can convert to Judaism and you'll get citizenship.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, and what I wanted to say, just to bring up a point about people blaming Israel for violence and war and instability in the world and whatever. If Israel is gone, the Western world is doomed for one simple reason. Nobody is willing to do anything against crazy tyrannical regimes equipping themselves with nuclear weapons. Nobody is willing to do anything about that besides Israel. And we've seen the example with Iraq and with Syria and with Iran, that Israel is fighting against those tyrannical regimes trying to get nuclear weapon somewhat successful. And what it gets in return is condemnation from the free world. And on the other hand, we've seen how, for example, the Western world have handled North Korea, which is very poorly. They've negotiated North Korea to not get nukes, and it was all a show. And eventually North Korea got nuclear weapons, and they're now basically blackmailing the entire Western world to fund this horrible terror state and to just basically squeeze their neighbors in the entire world. And also allow North Korea to keep being a complete, horrible, crazy, tyrannical regime that destroys its own people. Now, once Israel is gone, all of the craziest tyrannical dictatorships in the Middle East will equip nuclear weapon, and this nuclear weapon will be aimed at the Western world. So just to bring up this little point.
That's a very good point, yeah.
We have a super chat from Shauna. Thank you so much. She says, America is not based on ethnicity. I'm not sure if I said that every nation is based on ethnicity or that most are. But yeah, America is one of those nations that are not based around specific ethnicity and specifically don't even have sort of like a preference or preferential treatment for certain people. Okay, should we move on to the Walker's Intifada? So there is this I don't know what to even call it, sort of like a group inside of Microsoft. I'm not sure if this is the name or sort of this is just one part of it, but it's called No Azure for Apartheid Collective. Basically, they're claiming that Azure Cloud, which is like a Microsoft AI tool, is being used by the IDF and other security agencies and are contributing to the deaths of Palestinian civilians, which Microsoft does officially deny. Yet that didn't stop them from basically going and occupying, funnily enough, a CEO's office. I think I have a short video so we can watch that.
We are here to deliver our demands because they have been refusing to answer all of our demands to end their complicity.
Brad
Smith, you're a liar!
Brad Smith, you're a liar!
You set Palestine on fire!
You set Palestine on fire!
Brad Smith, shame on you!
Brad Smith, shame on you!
We are not leaving until you are forced to confront the crimes that you are enabling.
That's right.
We have hundreds of thousands of these murders on your
Free
hands.
Palestine!
Free Palestine!
Free Palestine!
Free Palestine!
Okay, so you have the classic stuff as always, but I mean, yeah, a question for you. I mean, this group apparently supposedly has like 200 members, while Microsoft has 200,000 employees. Yet somehow these are the people we are talking about, and these are the people that the public is talking about.
I think Microsoft should fire them just for the cringe of that they're producing. So much cringe is I'm wordless. It's very cringy. But for the sake of the issue, I think it's a shame. I think it's another indication of the sick culture we're living in, the culture of emotionalism, of vice signaling, of a lot of bad phenomena. And I think the reason it's so cringy is because you can see these people are sick. They hold evil ideas that corrupt their personality, and you can see it eventually in their style and the way they choose to communicate. I would like to live in a world where ideas are being displayed in a way that doesn't make you feel like somebody is emotionally manipulating or assaulting you. I want to have discourse. I want to talk about ideas, discuss, convince, let people choose the proper way to use their mind. And we just live in a society of emotionalists just displaying how passionately, supposedly, they feel about a certain issue, and therefore they deserve their opinions basically gets the entitlement and being forced on other people. And this is just a very ugly phenomenon. And I'm talking about the whole protest culture that is prominent today. And these people should be ashamed of themselves. And Microsoft should fire them for them abusing their place in the company. And whomever not satisfied with what his employer doing with its property should just quit his job rather than do vandalism and protest at his employer's property. This is just very ugly. And I'm not even started with like their point. Like once again, we see entitled people in the West blaming a Western country, a right-respecting country, a country of freedom, the only truly free state in the Middle East, defending itself against evil barbarians who want to destroy the entire Western world. Yet those entitled people in the West choose to support the evil and barbaric and self-destructive against those who stand for freedom. And that just it's just ugly. And once again, you see it. It's very. I'm glad you've shown this video because it's very visible in their style, in their emotional chanting and protesting and crying and screaming, that they're just that they gave themselves up. They gave themselves up, and we got left with this ugly, whatever left of them, crying and screaming all over the place. These are adult people. These are not toddlers. Yet look at what left of them.
I feel like somebody is trying to rage bait me in the chat, but I'll read it. If regular normal people are aghast, that's your fault. You have to operate in a way that does not offend normies. And again, well, one, these are
What does that mean?
I don't know. It's like saying, well, the people who set crosses on fire outside of African American houses, during the civil rights era, they have something. Obviously, they have something that they worry about. Since KKK had hundreds of thousands of members, maybe they have a valid point. I mean, no, you look at objectivity of the situation and you judge people based on that. Just because 1 million people or 100,000 people or however many people, and again we are talking about the minority here, but just because some people have certain ideas doesn't mean that now we have to respect it, talk about it as if it's something a valid, having wanting Israel to be gone, wanting Israel to be wiped out, having irrational ideas is not a valid sort of idea that you should engage with. These people are, I mean, the very least to say wrong in what they are trying to pursue. I want to go to you, Jonathan, but first, correction. This is not a CEO, but a president of Microsoft, and his office is the one they invaded. And also, they were fired, or at least some of them. Now, some of them were former employees as well, as far as I read. And of course, FBI was also involved in this situation, which I think is proper. Again, when these things happen, they have to be shut down as soon as possible, and these things cannot be allowed. Again, if sort of connecting it to the campus intifada, the students that were not arrested, students that were not kicked out of the university, these are the same people that will then go to work to Microsoft and do this kind of thing. So if you don't shut it down as soon as it happens, this is where you get. Jonathan?
Yeah, I mean, it's very sad. It's, as the R put, it's very ugly. They are all very ugly people. I wish them well. I hope they recover from this. It looks like they're in a very dire state. They definitely consume too much news. They should focus on living a good life instead. I think it would be a nice step in the right direction for them. More broadly, we live in a culture that is so news obsessed that it has to follow you wherever you go. It has to make your personality. You have to wear just to show that you are a contributing member to society. You show that you can emote whatever the news wants you to emote or TikTok wants you to emote. And it's a very sad state of affairs. And I look at them and I'm so proud at the people at the same age in Israel. What are they up to? They're up to actually defending their homes. They're actually fighting a very just war. They are being heroes. And people from the same age in America or in Europe, look what they're up to. It's just pathetic.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to sort of how much people how much time people spend on the news, or specifically on sort of targeting Israel. I'm not sure if you guys know about Kitchen Nightmares, the Gordon Ramsay show.
Oh yes, I love Chef
So
Ramsay.
maybe you remember the most famous episode with the Amy's Bacon Company.
I don't recall specific.
Okay. Basically, it's one of the worst episodes in terms of one of the worst owners. Basically, for people who don't know, Kitchen Nightmares, it's about Gordon Ramsay goes into bad restaurants in America and tries to fix them. And this one company, they were just these like truly terrible people, like didn't care for actually making things better and just wanted to argue with Gordon Ramsay. And one of those was actually Israeli, and somebody who watched the episode had to go on social media and say, now that I'm rewatching Kitchen Nightmares, it makes sense that these people are Israelis. So this is the kind of like rot that is happening, right? That people go to like more than 10-year-old old shows, because I think this episode is more than 10 years old. And specifically to like hate because one of the people was Israeli there. This is the kind of like again brain rot that we are getting to with
very,
people
very
who
sad.
simply want to hate on Israel.
Please let me, I want to read you a quote from an essay I published today. It relates to the state of the youth. And it's a quote I put on the essay by Stefan Zweig, of course, the great author. And it goes like that. It describes what was the atmosphere in Vienna in the end of the 19th and early 20th century. What was the youth like? So he says, to have seen Gustav Mahler on the street was an event that we proudly reported to our comrades the next morning as a personal triumph. And when a boy, and when as a boy I was once introduced to Johannes Brahms, the great composer as well, he patted me on the shoulder in a friendly fashion. I was dazed for some days after by the astonishing experience. You see, this was a culture that is just light years apart. The youth were obsessed with seeing genius. Being just to see Mahler on the street was an event that left them rattled. What are they up to today? They're up to seeing all these propaganda on TikTok, and then they break to somebody's office to chant and record themselves to show how great they are, instead of being obsessed with being great by being touched by greatness, literally as Stefan Zweig was touched by Brahms. Where are the people like that? I would say in Israel, much closer to that. Still, we have a lot of work to do, but much better.
I think it's more of a thing that I think there are people still out there like that, but what does the culture focus on, right? Just to maybe connect it to Ayn Rand, since we have the channel named after her. For people who have read The Fountainhead, if you guys remember the scene, the slight spoiler, when Gail Wynand was creating his newspaper, he made two stories where he ran two stories side by side, and he was trying to get like donations money for it. On one page it was a young scientist that was creating a new innovation, and on the other side it was like a single mother who needed money for food, baby formula or something like that. The young scientist barely got any money and the mother got like hundreds, right? And he said, now you know who we are writing for. And this is the kind of culture we have right now. That the fact is that there is no focus on the genius. There is no focus on the innovation. What is the focus on is, again, emotions. These people are going to the hotels and protesting. They are protesting for the dying children in Gaza. We have to focus on the dying children and mothers in Gaza. This is what we have to focus on. And this is the culture that wants it right now, right? It's not a focus on innovation. It's not a focus on the good. It's not a focus on Israel defending itself. The focus is on the suffering of Palestinians. ER?
Yes, and this is also disconnected from context and disconnected from justice, because people, for some reason, forget that whomever carries the moral responsibility for all this pain and suffering and all of this horrible thing is Palestinianism, is this ideology of destroying, killing, getting the Middle East rid of Jews, and by force, by violence, by brute force, by rape and murder. And whomever holds it, which is the vast majority of the population of Gaza, is responsible. And people are just like, oh no, they're suffering, it's Israel's fault, blah blah blah. And the thing that really makes me, it's really frustrating, is the fact that it's working. It's working. It's people are actually buying into that bullshit, and that's the thing that infuriates me.
We have a super chat from PC. Thank you so much. He says, when will UK follow Australians' lead? Well, it looks like they won't. The fact is that there was already a similar thing. Five, I think, people working for Iran, for the IRGC, I think some specific unit, wanted to attack Israeli embassy in London. And nothing, at least I don't think anything happened to the Iranian ambassadors to London. So again, this is the kind of thing we're dealing with. UK is not doing anything about it. Although now I'm not even sure, does Iran even have embassy in London? I'm gonna double check it because now I'm not sure. But before that, I'll bring it another topic, which is let's start with the Armenian genocide recognition, and specifically we have one video talking about it. So let's play it.
The Holocaust has been recognized by 193 different countries, right? Everybody around the world. And in some countries, if you denied, you could do jail time. Many countries, you can do jail time a year or 5 years. But for anybody that doesn't recognize Armenian Assyrian genocide, if there's any country that I would have expected to be on the list that recognized the Armenian and the Assyrian and the Greek genocide, it would be Israel. Why haven't you yet recognized the Armenian, Assyrian, and the Greek genocide that the Turkish did to that community?
In fact, I think we have, because I think the Knesset passed a resolution to that effect.
I don't know if it's come from you, though. I don't know if it's come from the Prime Minister of Israel.
Yeah, I just did.
Okay.
Here you go.
All right. Well, thank you for doing that. Thank you for doing that. I appreciate you. That's important to me. And I'm sure a lot of Armenians, Assyrians, and Greeks around the world appreciate you saying that.
So this was on Patrick but David's show, and I'll go to you guys since you are Israelis. Just to slight correction to Netanyahu, Knesset didn't do that because apparently a session was not able to be started since they didn't have enough votes. So I'm not sure if there is plan to actually do it at some other time, but at least as of right now, Knesset didn't actually pass that. ER, any thoughts?
Well, I'm glad Netanyahu said what he said. I think it's very important. I think Israel should acknowledge the genocide that was performed by the Ottoman Empire, which is now Turkey, against the Armenian and the Assyrian and Greek people. I will say that this is very bad that Netanyahu sit down with his suit buttoned. He should follow Jonathan's and others by sitting with the suit unbuttoned. It's basically a fashion crime. He should be sent to The Hague for that fashion crime. But it is very important to not ignore the crime that was committed by basically Turkey, and they should be held responsible for that. As of now, Turkey is basically denying that, is committing like a diplomatic campaign to basically ignore it and make the world ignore it. And the more people recognize it, the better.
Jonathan?
Yeah, I agree that it's a fashion crime indeed, and he makes many fashion crimes, by the way, Netanyahu. We can, I'm sure, devote a whole episode to that. But absolutely, as Yar said, it's very good that he recognized the Armenian, Assyrian, and Greek genocide that was conducted by the Ottomans. It's quite unfortunate that it has to come under these circumstances. I mean, why wait for so long? Why wait to the relations with Turkey to reach such a low to do that? I think it was obvious that Israel should have done it a long time ago. But and by the way, you mentioned the laws against Holocaust denial. I don't support such laws. I think people should be able to voice their opinion, however stupid it is. That's not right to make it illegal for people to say stupid things. It should be illegal for them to act in a way that violates other people's rights. But if it upsets people, something that I will say will upset some people, I should be free to do that, no matter if it's right or wrong. So that's also, I think, relating to that. But even more broadly, why does it matter so much to the Jews who recognizes the Holocaust, who doesn't recognize the Holocaust? Why the Armenians need it so much? I mean, it won't help the 6 million, whether they're recognized or not recognized. They're dead. What should matter to Israel is to be on the right side, to do what is necessary to protect Jews, to learn from these lessons. If some anti-Semitic country says that the Holocaust didn't happen, that's their problem, not ours, and we should look and check very closely how the Jews in that country are doing, so we can help them if necessary. That's what I would say.
No, recognizing a crime has epistemological meaning and a moral meaning. You shall not deny the facts.
But I don't know if it's a role of a state to recognize various crimes.
Well, it's a part of justice. Such countries should be held accountable for their crimes, and in order for a country to be held accountable, this crime should be at least recognized.
Yeah, I'm sort of like similar
Sure.
thing. Like a comparison I would give right now is sort of like many countries when the invasion of Ukraine happened, many countries like passed resolutions condemning the invasion. And that feels like kind of like good feeling, but sort of empty. And as Jonathan said, not necessarily sure if that is the role of a state to like recognize. Like it can take actions toward actually condemning it, meaning supporting Ukraine in its defense. That is all the condemnation that I think is needed when it comes to. I think if Netanyahu is asked something like, "Do you condemn Armenian genocide?" I mean, yeah, probably should say yes. But when it comes to like passing specific resolutions, again, not necessarily think this is like the role that the state needs to do of like passing a resolution about every single crime that has happened in the past.
I mean, it's not that it's the most destructive thing a
Yeah.
state does. So I guess I don't have an issue with that. So I support that. I just don't get too excited about because I don't know what it actually means. That's my point.
Yeah. Any more thoughts?
Is this the closing part?
Not yet. Specifically about this genocide part.
I think we've covered it.
Okay. Well, we still have a little bit of time, so let's do the other clip from this show.
Going back to that, I want to clarify this again. So you said you don't know whether Hamas October 7 attack would have happened under Trump. So you're saying Hamas would have had the audacity, even under Trump, to have attacked, or no, they would have feared him?
Probably not, but it's hard to say with these maniacs. You can't quite tell. I think Iran would have been more careful, and Iran is the patron. Would they have controlled completely their client, their proxy? Maybe not. Maybe they would have, possibly. But look, I think President Trump has changed the posture of America. America is back on the global scene. America is resumed its powerful position among the nations.
I mean, just a question, Jonathan. Why is Netanyahu giving so many interviews right now?
Well, we have to save Hasbara. I mean, we're losing at the Hasbara front, and we're taking many casualties. You see what's happening in Microsoft. I mean, we're taking some serious damage, and Netanyahu is there to help us.
It's very important that the prime minister will speak around the world in times of war. I don't think the Al Hasbara has good principles, because The Hasbara basically is Israel's official stance gives implicit moral sanction to Palestinianism. So we have a big problem here.
I don't know. I don't know why it matters. Why does it matter if he speaks up in whatever news channel? How does it help?
Well, imagine he would have actually had some good principles to stand on, and he would have coined them. That would have been great. Like it would have been like Churchill, for example.
I don't know how many interviews Churchill did all over the world during World
Oh,
War.
he did a lot of public speaking, and it was broadcasted
For the British people, but not
yeah,
for...
but it was broadcasted and reported. It doesn't matter. So it can be either. There is a point when you are in war to show to be proud of what you're doing, in the sense that you are the on the moral side, that you are right in defending yourself, and you need to show it to present it basically.
The best way to present is in the battlefield.
I agree 100%, and unfortunately we're not doing that. Yeah. And for the sake of what we have seen, like regards the content, I think Netanyahu knew from the get-go what Zelensky had to learn. The United States is very strong, and Israel needs the United States support, and Netanyahu knows that he needs to be very kind to the president, and very how do you say lefargen in English? To be very
There's no translation for that.
There is no word for that, but basically to be very fond of
words of flattery and positivity, because he
be very positive towards the president, very, very grateful. And yeah, Zelensky learned it the hard way.
Quite.
I think Zelensky did it in the last meeting in the Oval Office.
Yeah, he learned a lesson for sure.
He even wore a suit.
Yes, another fashion crime.
That was a very
by the way,
suit.
I want to say a good word for Patrick Bet-David, who's very good on the...
Listen, Daniel, next time when Jonathan and myself are on, you need to prepare some pictures of politicians, like Netanyahu sitting with his buttons closed, and Zelensky with his black suit, and all kind of other things, and we will rate them. We can also rate, the ruler of Syria,
oh my God.
Like, before and after.
Very attractive.
Before and after the rebranding, the Jabhat al-Nusra version and the suited version, and we can rate them all. It will be a lovely little part of the show.
Well, let's hear in the chat. Let's hear the chat show some love for this wonderful idea. I want to see the public call for it.
We'll work on a new segment.
Yeah. If we get 150 likes, so there will be a fashion segment.
Very good.
I think you should ask for more. 150 is pretty easy.
Be more ambitious.
Yeah, I want the segment to happen.
I want to add, we didn't discuss what they actually said there, which I think is important and quite revealing of what it matters to the American Republican sort of audience that I think Patrick Bet-David resonates with. What does this question matter? Would it happened under Trump? Would it not? Well, what is he?
Well, for Patrick Bet-David is very partisan. So for him, he just wants that clip of him saying, this wouldn't have happened under Trump. Even Bibi Netanyahu.
It shows you how ridiculous and frankly, it's just silly. And how many times Trump has repeated that, saying it wouldn't have happened if I was president.
By the way, Netanyahu is torn by this question, because on the one hand he wants to promote the narrative that he could not have prevented it, because if he could, then he should. And it is some sort of, like, for him, a metaphysical event. And on the other hand, he doesn't want to say, "Oh, Trump couldn't prevent it." So he found an in-between way of saying that he thinks not, but you cannot tell because of Hamas and whatever.
Very
of course,
talented at these.
Yes, but to point the positive, we should have long time ago stopped giving moral sanction to Palestinianism. We should not have given Gaza to those who hold this ideology. And once we did, we doomed ourselves to bloodshed, and many Israelis are accountable for that. And that's very unfortunate.
That's right.
Well, with that, Jonathan, any last thoughts from you, and where can people find you?
Well, thank you. It was really great to be here again, and thank you for the great viewers. We had some very interesting conversations in the chat that I'd rather not comment on. You can find me on Substack at philosophyIneeded.com. I just released a very good essay, if I may say so, about the aesthetic decline of the world, what it used to be like, and how do we change it as well. So I think the audience might find it interesting, so do check it out.
Iyar, any last thoughts from you, and where can people find you?
I'm Iyar Reichel. I'm an associate of the Ayn Rand Center Israel. You can find out about the Ayn Rand Center Israel in aynrand.org.il/about. I'm also a leading member in the movement Victory Now. We're working on a book in English and in Hebrew called Victory Now. It presents a plan for Israel's victory and the moral case for it. The book is about to release quite soon. So please visit www.victory.now to support us and to sign up for a waiting list for the book. And thank you.
Great book. It's a great book, by the way. It's going to be fantastic.
The greatest book I've ever will read. With that, this is all from the channel, but ARCUK is not technical over yet, since we help produce Cutting Edge, which is starting at 7:30 p.m. UK time. So in about 25 minutes, putting the link in the chat, you can watch us there. And with that, we'll be back tomorrow with another episode of the Daily Objective and the Reality Show. Until then, thank you guys for joining me today, and bye-bye.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.